few days ago, I talked about how Peter Dinklage came out and voiced how furious he was over the fact that the new modern-day remake of Snow White was going to have the 7 dwarfs. He went on about how it was belittling they could ever consider keeping the dwarfs in the story, and Disney came out a day later and said they were replacing the dwarfs with CGI magical creatures. But now, Peter Dinklage is being slammed by other dwarf actors who are upset he just cost them 7 acting jobs, and I think that this situation is hilarious. I have a few things to show off, but before we get into the topic at hand, if you enjoy the content that I create, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Follow me on social media like Twitter or mine so that you can see when my content is posted, and of course if you do really enjoy the videos and the live streams that I create, please consider becoming a Dark Titan via Patreon for just $1 a month or supporting the channel via YouTube memberships. All of the links are in the description, and of course I do really appreciate all of the support. So if you don't know about the initial situation, I will read about it really quickly. My other video will be linked in the description, but it says Peter Dinklage says Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs live-action remake is backwards. He went on about how offensive it was and how he was so happy to hear that they were doing a new Snow White movie with a Latina lead actress and how inclusive and with the times that decision was. But he said it was half-assed and backwards that they are still deciding to keep the 7 dwarfs in the movie. He said, though, you're progressive in one way, but you're still making that effing backwards story about 7 dwarfs living in a cave together. What the F are you doing, man? Have I done nothing to advance the cause from my soapbox? I guess I'm not loud enough, and he was in fact loud enough because Disney the next day came out and said that they have decided they were no longer putting the 7 dwarfs in this movie. So a Disney spokesman responded to Dinklage's comments, telling The Hollywood Reporter to avoid reinforcing stereotypes from the original animated film, we are taking a different approach with these 7 characters and have been consulting with members of the dwarfism community. We look forward to sharing more as the film heads into production after a lengthy development period. And then they said they were turning them into magical creatures, and this sounds like an absolutely ridiculous movie at this point. We have none of the original characters. We know that they're race-swapping Snow White, and they've decided to make her a strong, independent woman who doesn't need a prince to save her at the end of the story. And now they're removing the 7 dwarfs. This isn't Snow White and the 7 dwarfs at all whatsoever, and we don't even know what they're going to do with these new CGI magical creatures. A lot of people wonder how that's going to turn out. And I even said in my original video how I thought it was pretty backwards that they were going to be removing the dwarfs while claiming to be making a very inclusive movie because they race-swapped Snow White. They did just cause 7 people to potentially lose acting jobs, but now it's coming out that dwarf actors who star in the Snow White pantomimes are slamming hypocritical Peter Dinklage and say their livelihoods will be ruined if little people aren't cast in stage and screen productions after he called the Disney remake backwards. I think that it is absolutely hilarious that he is being slammed by other actors right now, because when people like me and you come out and we say that we think these changes are ridiculous, oh, we're called ists and phobes, and we're called terrible people, and oh, we're just called bigots, but it's pretty hilarious to see other actors come out and slam Peter Dinklage over this, because again, it is pretty backwards. He's saying, oh, it's so offensive that you're leaving the 7 dwarfs in the movie, but he just cost 7 dwarf actors potential jobs. Actors who have enjoyed playing the part of the little people in pantomimes of Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs have hit out at hypocritical Peter Dinklage after he labeled Disney's remake of the fairy tale classic backwards. A bodybuilding dwarf, Chun-Ton, 27 from North London, and Zeta Fairy, 32, of Stoke-on-Trent, who suffers from dwarfism, have both featured in Snow White productions, with the former saying they always felt inclusive and magical. They also told Female that the Game of Thrones star Dinklage's complaints regarding Disney's live animation of Snow White could end up ruining their livelihoods if it resulted in the entertainment industry avoiding casting little people due to fears of stereotyping. This would be terrible to see a certain group of people lose their jobs because, one actor literally complained and said, it's not very inclusive, it's not very nice that you're doing this, yet he is costing people their jobs. Livelihoods are being ruined because of his comments because a company like Disney decided to listen to one actor. It says he criticized Disney for remaking the 1937 film. Have I done nothing to advance the cause from my soapbox? I guess I'm not loud enough. And in response, the American company said it is taking a different approach with Snow White's 7 companions and has been consulting with members of the dwarfism community throughout the early stages of production, and people are livid over this. It says Chun branded Dinklage hypocritical for hitting out at Disney after having featured in Game of Thrones, where his character's size was mentioned and ridiculed. It is true, in Game of Thrones, that was a big part of Tyrion's character. Tywin Lannister never really saw his son as being an equal to Jaime. It was a big point in the show and how Tyrion was treated. Tyrion, in my opinion, was one of the best characters in the show, though, until, of course, the last season. We're not going to talk about the last season of Game of Thrones. Up until the last season, he was one of my favorite characters. He was absolutely amazing, and Peter Dinklage did an amazing job acting as this character. Unfortunately, though, he's decided to come out now and make statements like this and get movies completely changed. Chun, who started his career as a bodybuilder before getting into acting 4 years ago, where a lot of the jobs that I've done have required me to be different and smaller, has appeared as a dwarf in Snow White and Weston-super-Mare in Yeovil in 2018 and 2019, respectively. He said, "A lot of my colleagues and myself rely on that work to get by, and it's just embracing your uniqueness because I want to play that part. They utilize my bodybuilding and other people's skills." I think that this is a great way to look at it. And when I'm playing that part, it makes me feel quite impressive because I feel like the spotlight is on us and it's quite a magical experience. And just to be on stage, it really helps my confidence. I think that this is a super positive comment to make. And this is great to hear about. Not that, I'm so mad that they're using me because I look a specific way. No, this person is coming out and saying, it makes me feel amazing that they're using my uniqueness and they're utilizing my bodybuilding and my skills for a part that they need me for. It says, adding that he was quite disappointed by Dinklage's remarks. He said, "Everyone loves to play the parts. I love doing it and meeting people, and the kids love it. I don't think there's anything wrong with dwarfs being in Snow White and the 7 dwarfs." And I 100% agree. When you are watching Snow White, you expect the 7 dwarfs to be there. You expect these lovable characters that a lot of people know from their childhoods, from growing up with these stories. I really don't think that it's that big of a deal. I don't think that it's that offensive. But of course, one actor did, so now Disney is completely changing the movie. Zeta, meanwhile, who was in a Snow White pantomime in December in Whitley Bay, said, "I honestly feel that the shows are good for little people such as myself. If Disney didn't use dwarf actors, I do feel like that takes away from us. The entertainment industry is the biggest positive we have in our position. Peter Dinklage made a vast amount of money in Game of Thrones, a series that saw him referred to as countless derogatory terms. If he was so against the use of the term dwarf or similar, or even dwarf actors would have been in the series at all." Meanwhile, a Paralympic swimmer, Will Perry, 21, appeared on ITV's Good Morning Britain to discuss whether the show's live-action production, which is in its 3rd year of development, should be cancelled to avoid reinforcing stereotypes. So as you can see, a lot of dwarf actors are very, very upset right now that Peter Dinklage has put them in this position, potentially costs 7 of them jobs. And that's what I had said at the beginning of this whole situation. I thought it was pretty backwards. Oh, he's complaining about there being the 7 dwarfs in the movie, yet at the same time, he's costing 7 people jobs, because now they're just replacing them with CGI creatures. Yes, they're going to need voice actors for those creatures, but they are completely taking away from that representation in the movie. But that's all that I really had to discuss about this situation. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.